Good morning, everybody. My name is Bishop Ryan Mond. I'm conducting the funeral services for Brother Barry Trowbridge today. President Davies will be presiding, and Sir John stand with us. And thank everyone for being here. I know a lot of people have traveled to be here today and to join with us to remember and rejoice over the life of Brother Barry Trowbridge. Barry was a beloved member of the Arlington 2nd Ward, and I'm so grateful that all of his family, his friends, colleagues, neighbors are here together to honor his life. This chapel is a sanctuary, and we hope that we can all feel the spirit that will bring us comfort and peace at this time. We ask that for the reverence that we maintain in the chapel, that everyone turn off their cell phones so that we can feel the gentle whisperings of the Spirit, and especially that we can act on those promptings that we receive throughout the services. One, we acknowledge and thank those that have provided flowers and messages for the family. Also those that have donated food and services. We appreciate that very much, and the family wishes to express its gratitude as well. We will begin the services today by singing opening hymn 100, Nearer My God to Thee, after which our invocation will be given by Carrie Mock.
We thank thee for the honor of being a part of his life and for all that he has taught us. And we ask that you please have that spirit in us today and provide comfort and peace. We love you very much. We're so grateful for the plan of salvation, for the atonement. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Harry. I also want to thank Sister Becky Savoy and Debbie Starr for the music today as well. Our first speaker will be Brother Ryan Trowbridge. He'll be reading remarks from Brother Trowbridge's mother, Janet Trowbridge. After we hear from Ryan, we will have speakers Matt Trowbridge and Randy Starr. After Brother Starr speaks, we will have a special musical selection by Carrie Mockley and Marion Erickson, I Know That My Redeemer Lives, and Andrew Trowbridge will be accompanying them. We'll go to that one.
Our family was touched by a phrase from Marion, quote, "The world lost a great man today," unquote. I would like to share some memories with you of that great man, my son. He was 8 pounds and 13 ounces when he was born. His first word was Nana. He said it and then pointed to a banana. He was 18 months old. When Mary and Kathy were 9 years old, they were both found running around the church house in Germany by each of their fathers and told to stop. That was the first time I remember them being together. He loved scouting and all of his scout leaders, especially his father. They went on a canoe trip down the Potomac River when it was so low that Barry had to step out of the canoe several times to lift the canoe and his dad off of a rock they were stuck on. They went on a shakedown cruise on a Navy ship. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know that I want to. And one summer, the troop painted house numbers on the curbs in the neighborhood and earned enough money to go to Disney World. He enjoyed that just as much as rough out camping. At 16 years of age, he had a shiny new driver's license. He asked his dad if he could borrow the car for a date. We asked who, and he answered Kathy. Dwayne took out his wallet and asked, "How much money do you need?" We were so pleased that he and Kathy dated and loved each other. Ray graduated from high school and attended the local community college for a year. We were so proud of him when he told us he wanted to serve a mission. He was called to Brazil and had to spend 5.5 months in the missionary training center while he waited a visa to enter Brazil. While he was there, his father, younger brother, and I visited him in Brazil. While we were there, the mission president approved of Dad being his companion, the Trowbridge elders. After his release, he came home and the wedding planning began. They had a reception in San Antonio and an open house in Fairfax, Virginia. Then off they went to BYU, where Barry graduated with a degree in engineering. I guess Utah was too small for the new family of 4, so they moved to a bigger state. And Barry, Kathy, and all their kids became the Texas Tees. Yeah, we did. I'm so proud of how great a husband, father, and grandfather he was. His eyes lit up and his voice sparkled when speaking of his family. I'm so proud of how he served so valiantly in every calling he had in the church, how close he was to his Father in heaven and his Savior. I remember when he called to say he had been called to be in the high council of his new stake soon after moving to Texas. His dad said, "Well, tell those men in Texas to keep their hands off your head. That's my job and privilege," unquote. So we flew out shortly afterwards. He was so gracious every time we visited his family in Texas. If we flew, he met us at the airport and took us back for our return flight every time. Every time a child was born, he would call us with tears in his voice to announce the birth and tell us how Kathy was doing. We were so proud of his exemplary work ethic. I remember when in high school, he and 2 of his friends worked at Burger King. The manager said that he did not usually hire friends because they visited and played instead of working. But he said that Barry was a leader and brought his friends and other employees up to being better just by being there. He enjoyed his jobs and loved to show off his workplaces when we visited. I was also proud of the loving care he gave to his sweetheart during the years of her illness. Every phone call was upbeat and positive. I never heard despair or negativity from him. It did break my heart when he called to tell me that she had died. I cried because she had died and also because I knew that his heart was broken. I know he wanted to spend eternity with Kathy. He's also there with his father and little sister. My wish is that we all will cherish our families and love the Lord and live to be reunited with Barry in time. This I say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for being here and showing support and love to one of the greatest men to walk the earth, in my opinion. For those of you who do not know me, I guess I'll say that Bishop Brian Wand told me that my father said I was his favorite child. So I'm the favorite child of Barry and Kathy Charters, also the youngest. This was probably one of the most difficult talks I've probably ever had to prepare, partially because I didn't know how exactly to summarize 64 years of a life of one of the greatest role models in my life. Also because I thought I was going to have to follow Brother Starr, and we all know he's the king of dad jokes. There's so many things I wanted to share about my dad, but I decided I wanted to share the things that I personally loved most about him. My dad loved life. He loved being a dedicated husband, dad, and grandpa. He loved solitaire. He loved Bluebell ice cream. He loved music by the Eagles. He loved ugly dad shoes. He loved Jerry Garcia ties that we're all wearing. He loved barbecue, classic Mustangs, making people smile, fixing things, and so much more. He enjoyed living his life, and he lived life to the fullest. One of his most favorite hobbies was embarrassing his kids every time he had the chance. Since he's not here to say no or to stop me, I wanted to share off some of the stories that he might be considered embarrassing. My dad snored louder than any other human. Many years ago, we were on our annual Fathers and Sons camp out, and that was a prized childhood memory of mine. And even because of this story, we all set up camp in the same kind of general area, and after everyone went to bed, we heard somebody, I guess, knock on the tent, asking us to move. he snored so loud, no one else could go to bed. I think my mom is the true hero of that story. She really knows how to endure to the end. My dad had very hairy eyebrows and nostrils, and I was very fortunate to receive that same genetic blessing from him. My dad was a very completely different person behind the wheel of the car. If most of you remember how smiley and kind and funny my dad was, you probably never rode with him in the car on I-20. Luckily, my mom tamed him over the years, but his road rage provided us with great words of frustration, such as flippity gibbets. I remember one time when I was about 13 years old, we were leaving the Home Depot parking lot, and we almost got hit by this crazy driver. Obviously, he was in the wrong, and my dad became very upset and followed this guy in the parking lot and rolled down the window and provided him with the greatest insult I've ever heard. He said, "Where did you get your license? Out of a Cracker Jack box?" These are a few stories of examples of my dad's bad side. But he was so patient, kind, and positive that even his worst insults and characteristics were incredibly endearing and lovable. Now for the best parts. My dad was a very funny man. He appreciated a dumb dad joke more than he should have. It's probably why Brother Starr was his best friend. My mom would often not allow him to deliver his most famous joke, which involves him impersonating someone with a hair lip, as he recounts the tale of a hair lip and a cripple traveling throughout Europe. Without giving away the joke or being irreverent in the church, the punchline ends with essentially the Pope knocking the cripple down. This was, the pinnacle of his joke-telling career. And of course, my mom did not like him sharing this joke. And hours before my mother passed in the hospital, we were all in the same room, all 5 kids and both parents, and he had one last chance to get that joke in, and he nailed it. He just blew it out of the park. And that to me summarizes that even in the worst of times, he had the amazing capability of brightening someone's day. His humor was excellent. My dad graduated from BYU with a degree in mechanical engineering. Throughout his career, he was able to work on F-22 fighter jets, B-2 bomber planes, bunker buster missiles, spy satellites, helicopters, trains, and other things we were not allowed to know about. He had what he called the knack. He could pretty much fix anything, and he often took on many difficult challenges. He loved having one of us kids present while he fixed and had his projects, and he called whoever that was his right-hand man. My dad was an extremely hard worker. One of the many projects that we did together over the years, or over the course of many years, he had many projects, and he often hit many roadblocks and obstacles. He was always determined to find a solution and to fix whatever was broken. When I was about 14, we planted a tree outside of our front yard, and it was in the middle of Texas summer. I live in Oregon, thankfully now. Looking back, I realized why. It was, I don't know, one of those 110-degree days, and we had to dig a hole that was about 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep. After 20 minutes, I got really tired and I went in, and my dad kept going. And he eventually dug the hole, planted the tree, and came in, obviously not feeling very well at all. And my mom was very worried and took him to the hospital and realized that he had 4 blood clots in his lungs and 2 in his legs. And despite, obviously horrible physical pain, he pushed through and did it because he needed to plant a tree. That's just the kind of worker that he was. My dad was a very strong man. When I was 11 years old, we rebuilt Marin's old car, the Mercury Mystique, and it needed the engine to be completely rebuilt. And part of that process was we had to remove the engine from the car and put it on the workbench in the garage. And he didn't want to go out and buy an engine hoyer or a hoist at all, like normal people. He wanted to lift it, just him and I. And his plan was to wrap chains around the engine and put a 2x4 through the chains. We put it on our shoulders and lift it out of the car and put it on the workbench. In theory, it sounded great, but I think he drastically overestimated my 11-year-old strength. I don't know if it was frustration or what, but he saw that I could not do it. My legs were about to crumble underneath me, and he just picked up the entire engine himself and put it on the workbench. And that was very impressive to me, and maybe that's why I behaved very well after that. I did not want to be spanked by that man. My dad was a very proud dad and grandpa. He bragged about every little accomplishment of each of his 5 kids and 6 grandkids to complete strangers. He loved his family with his whole heart, and he never outwardly showed his pride of his own accomplishments, but often spoke about the accomplishments of those he loved. My dad was an extremely selfless and supportive father to each of his 5 kids. On top of doing all of his other fatherly duties, like cooking, cleaning, doing laundry when my mom told him to, he went the extra mile to support all of us in our hobbies and interests. For me, I played soccer growing up for about 13 years, and he never missed a single soccer practice or soccer game. He was always known to my teammates to be the loudest parent on the field. In fact, he once got kicked out of the game because he was so loud. He did the same for each of my siblings. For Carrie, it was choir concerts, swimming practices, and swim meets. With Marin, it was all of her violin lessons and concerts and choir concerts. With David, it was basketball games, choir and band concerts, football games, and soccer games. He was more involved than the rest of us. For Ryan, it was soccer games, band concerts, and scouting activities. He spent tens of thousands of hours going the extra mile with each one of us to make us feel special. This is an incredible feat in my mind, considering how much patience is required for audiences of beginner trumpet and violin players. I'm looking at you, Mary. My dad is the most faithful man I've ever met. He never missed an opportunity to share the gospel and his testimony and love of the Savior. He served a 2-year mission in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, at the age of 19, which provided a strong foundation in the church and love for the gospel. He married his soulmate in the Logan, Utah temple and was sealed for her for time and all eternity. His faith never wavered in the many years since then. I have seen my dad endure horrible life circumstances and grow ever stronger in his love for the Savior. He strictly obeyed the commandment to keep the Sabbath day holy. On the drive to and from church, he only allowed us to listen to Mormon Tabernacle Choir with the occasional Hotel California thrown in. He was a wonderful, enthusiastic teacher. From primary children to high school seminary students, he never loved any other calling more. He frequently went to the temple when he sought guidance in his life and needed peace. He loved studying the scriptures. On his work commutes, he would listen to scriptures on tape. He presided over our home with his priesthood. I remember receiving a father's blessing every year before school. He taught me the plan of salvation, which I have never appreciated more than right now. He not only taught the gospel by word, but by action and deed. All those that knew him know this. My dad was a loving man. He loved his Heavenly Father and Savior Jesus Christ. He loved his family and friends. He had a genuine love for all those around him that originated from his strong roots and testimony of the gospel. Although he is no longer with us here, his legacy lives on. In Ryan, I see his incredible teaching skills. In David, I see his strength, both physical and spiritual. In Marin, I see his love and kindness for others and family. In Carrie, I see his humor and smile. In myself, I see his love of fixing things and bushy eyebrows when I look in the mirror. I know that we will see our amazing Father again because we're an eternal family. I'd like to bear my testimony that I know that this is not goodbye, that we will see him again. The gospel is such an amazing, wonderful gift in our lives. And I'm very thankful to my father who taught me the gospel, who showed me the gospel and walked me through the gospel so that we can be together forever. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
First of all, I'd like to express my love to the Trowbridge family. And to all of you, I hope that I can do this without crying. Bishop Coquinas, I will not sing during this talk. And I appreciate your comments. You know, I get up and look in the mirror and I go, "Dad, is that you in there?" It's amazing. I appreciate it. I'm humbly grateful for the opportunity the Trowbridge family has given me to speak. In discussing the program for this funeral, Mayor mentioned that they were going to have a short program with a few short talks about Marin. I'm your man. I think I'm definitely the shortest man here speaking. Speaking of short, I thought at the time that David and I had known Barry and Kathy, and Rose family is also Mitchell. Even though I've known Barry for 40 years, it seems like a really short period of time. Barry and I had classes together in the engineering and technology program at Brigham Young University. I graduated from BYU in 1980. We moved to Arlington. I started my employment with a company, LTV, Black Aircraft Company, and working on the B-1 bomber program. A few months later, about 4 months later, Barry interviewed with the same company and got employment with there. We worked in the same area. I remember going and visiting Kathy along with Ryan and David at the time at this hotel that they suggested in Grand Prairie. It was great to be able to finally able to leave that and go to some other place. I remember Jen and I and Debbie visiting them. Kathy and Debbie quickly became instant friends. Barry and Kathy and their family moved into an apartment at 360 and I-20. There's some apartments there. And we happened to live there too. Not knowing where we lived, they moved to a house, but apartment about 3 doors down. We were here in the Arlington second at that time. Later that year, we purchased a home off of Matlock just south of I-20. And a few months later, Barry and Kathy bought a house south of I-20 off of Matlock. A couple of streets further south. It was convenient because we could carpool to work together, and Kathy was close for piano lessons. As our families grew larger, we reached a point where we needed a house with more bedrooms. We just happened to find a street close by that had 2 newly built homes for sale that met both of our family needs. So in 1985, we both bought new houses on the street called Little Creek Court. And we lived next door to each other for the next 12 years. Living next door to the Tropes family was exciting. It was always about opportunities and blessings. It made it easy for 2 families to do things together. Many combined family home evenings, many birthday parties, many Christmases, many combined family activities. One of my favorite family activities was a yearly outing to sing Christmas carols to many families and friends and church members. Our 2 families brought sung Christmas carols to many of your homes over this last 30-year tradition. As Matt had mentioned earlier, the marriage barrier was called to serve on the before State High Council. He had responsibility for single adults, and was also assigned to visit the branch in Stephenville. It was never a bother. Both families living close together. There was always at least one car that got Barry and I to work, and one car to get all the kids from both families to school. Barry and his sons when he mowed the grass, there were any boundaries. I always came home and my mom was mowed too when he was mowing his mom. Barry had a keen mind and ability to repair automobiles. Many times I'd come home to be under the hood of the car, along with 3 boys, being taught what to do and how to do it. The Star Home was often the location for homework and science projects. There's often strange things growing in the refrigerator. Baseballs breaking windows. Many children playing. I was reminded of the neighbors of lots of boys climbing on lots of roofs, and it seemed like we were just one big family. My family has been blessed by Kathy's music talent and expertise in the piano. Barry had a deep understanding of the gospel of our Savior Jesus Christ. Excuse me. He had a deep understanding of the Lord's Christ's ministry, His atonement, His death, and His resurrection. Barry loved to teach. He loved to read and study the gospel. He often bore testimony of the Savior Jesus Christ in his many talks and lessons in primary, priesthood, Sunday school, and seminary. Since Kathy's death, Debbie and I had the opportunity to have Barry over our home once a week to have dinner. During that time, we took the opportunity to study, then see, Come Follow Me. And it was a great opportunity for our weekly study. When that became difficult, Debbie and I would take it to him, and we do our studying. While Barry was in the hospital, I've been blessed with the opportunity to spend time with him there. We always took this outside to talk, to reminisce, and of course, to do our weekly study reading, come follow me, and from the New Testament. We had many deep and meaningful discussions. We watched many videos of Jesus Christ, his ministry, his relationship with the 12 apostles, parables, and his teachings. Just this last Saturday morning, we studied about the final hours of the life of Jesus Christ, his pain, suffering, and Gethsemane, and Christ's crucifixion. We talked about the blessings of our Savior Jesus Christ and how difficult the pain and suffering was for the Savior. Barry always mentioned about how important the atonement was in his life and the life of his family. Jesus Christ's willingness to suffer showed his love for his Father and for all of us. Barry had that same Christ-like love for his wife, Kathy, for his children, Ryan, David, Maren, Carrie, and Matt, their wives, their family, and for all of us. A scripture that I feel describes Barry is found 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity endeth not. Charity wanteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself conceitedly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, and endureth unto the end. Barry bore testimony of the truthfulness of the gospel and the witness of Jesus Christ. He expresses love and gratitude for the Savior, for the Father. He also expresses, with tears in his eyes, his love for his wife and for his family. I'm grateful for these special times with Barry. Excuse me. Over our 4-year friendship with Barry and Kathy, Ryan, David, Mary, Carrie, Barry, Kathy, Ryan, David, Mary, Kathy, Barry, Carrie, Matt. They bless our life in their life. I can't get my own kids. But even though Barry and I had some serious times to study the New Testament, and all night we laughed and joked while he was in the hospital these last 9 weeks. I have apologized many times over the last 40 years to Barry and his family for the many Brother Star jokes that I shared. Barry always seemed to smile and laugh at my jokes. And Kathy and David was kind of smile and shake her head. I don't know if it was in disgust or in pain. I shared one Brother Star type joke, text the whole family, Jody's family, and Matt texted back to me and said, I had forgotten how horribly awesome Brother Star's jokes were. One joke about a person with a speech impediment, and Matt talked about this. No one, not even me, could tell this joke like Barry. He was a master of this joke. And the success was in the presentation. And Barry's presentation of this joke was spectacular. A few of the, I tried to put my jokes with the theme of what was taking place. That's part of the presentation. And so I told several hospital jokes that I shared with Barry this last few minutes that made her laugh. And probably had Kathy shaking her head. Some things like, the worst time to have a heart attack is while playing charades. I asked Barry what was Forrest Gump's password for his computer, and he said, I don't know. I said it was 1, Forrest, 1. I mentioned that I tried to play hide and seek last time I was there visiting in the hospital, but the nurses always found me in ICU. Barry, that leaves me copies of the joke. I was going to share with you this week in the hospital. I was going to tell you that we will be good friends until we are old and senile. And then we get to the point in our life and stage of our life where maybe our mind might fail us. And then we can be new old friends every day. Barry and Kathy, George's family, we love you. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts, express my love. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I know that my Redeemer lives. What comfort this sweet sentence gives. He lives who once was dead. He lives, my ever-living head. He lives to bless me with his love. He lives to plead for me above. He lives, my hungry soul to free. He lives to bless in time of need. He lives to grant me rich supply. He lives to guide me with his love. He lives to comfort me with faith. He lives to heal my soul's complaint. He lives to silence all my fears. He lives to wipe away my tears. He lives to calm my troubled heart. He lives of blessings to impart. He is my kind, wise heavenly Father. He lives and loves me to the end. He lives and while he lives I'll sing. He lives, my prophet, priest, and king. He lives and grants me daily life. He lives and I shall conquer death. He lives, my mansion to my bed. He lives to bring me safely there. He lives my Savior still the same. Oh, sweet the joy this sentence gives. I know that my Redeemer lives. He is all glory to His name. He is my Savior, still the same. Oh, sweet the joy this sentence gives. I know that my Redeemer lives. I know that's my
Wow, thank you, Carrie, and Maren, and Andy for coming. Matt, I think I said you were your favorite son. Maren and Carrie, that was amazing. The way up there. Concluding speaker will be David Trowbridge. After we hear from David, we'll have our closing hymn, will be 134, I Believe in Christ. After which, Brother Alan Trowbridge will give our benediction. Following the benediction, the family and those that wish to will proceed to Amarillo Hill Cemetery for the interment. With that.
Oh boy. For those of you who have been continuously coming to our funerals, we just wanted to say that this was also my dad's favorite song and my mom's favorite song, so make sure to punch your frequent card. Yeah. I did want to address really quick that the last couple of months when my dad was in the hospital, he was in there since April, and he suffered a lot of disorienting effects, like a little bit of dementia and stuff, but towards the end, he really confused the word favorite with surprise. I've been holding on to that secretly for a while. My name is David, I'm proud son of Barry and Kathy. I'm honored and humbled to be able to talk with my father today. And for all of you guys for coming to celebrate my dad's life, those of you that traveled very far, like my brother in Oregon, we got family from Utah, I want to say thank you. I'm here, I can only speak for myself, but the first thing that comes to my mind when I talk about my dad is admiration. And so I'm going to be honest with you, not brutally honest with my brother, but just to speak about some of the reasons why I admire my father. In his early years, my father was a minor god of mischief. From his felonious experiments with black powder, to burning a barn down after doing cigarettes, or placing an explosive firecracker in a cow pie and calling over his cousin. He clearly had a gift. But my favorite is when him and the cabal of bad influence got their bad little wicked hands on a life-size doll of one of their siblings. They made strategic incisions at the joints, tied a rope around the waist, and climbed a tree with the branch that overhung over the road. They indiscriminately waited for the next car, and perfectly timed the drop of the doll, landed perfectly on the windshield, and the man, the driver, got out clutching his chest. That he lived to see another sunrise is a freaking miracle. Look at you two.
Also, as some teenagers experience, my father had a little bit of, some angst and anger. My grandpa recognized this and decided that he would take my father out to regular outings to get a pickle and a Pepsi. Right? I know it's a surprise for you boys that grandpa liked Pepsi. But they would go into the drugstore and just have a pickle and a Pepsi and talk. And after a little bit, both of them noticed that his anger was diminished. And my father, over the decades, talked about this as a very transformative. Excuse me. I'm all over the place today. It was very transformative for him because he learned that love was always spelled T-I-M-E. And through the course of his life, that was his biggest motif, his biggest thing. We talked about how my father's faithfully served a mission in Brazil. He came home and always talked about how much he loved the people, the language, something called feijoada, and God and I don't know what those things are, but he loved it. Later, he did what he called the best thing he ever did for you guys, and he married my mom. They were married for 44 years. Most of y'all know that they met when they were 9 years old in Germany. But few knew the complete commitment that they made to each other years before his mission. This week, when we were going through the house, we found love letters to each other that they wrote on their 40th anniversary. And they were pretty awesome. And I just want to say that my dad knew true love in his life. As very young children, my dad showed us the meaning of being a father and of what patience truly was. He would insist that his 5-year-old son be his go-to man and his handyman when they were working on the car. He would be under the car and say, I need this tool. And after 20, 30 attempts, he'd finally get the right tool. And he'd get it and continue working on his car and then repeat the process. For Marion, she wanted to learn how to wrap presents. And this is obviously happened Christmas time when it's crazy. And so he would take her and show her the steps and the techniques and just lovingly teach how to do it instead of doing it really quickly in a 30-minute job. It took 2 hours. This was always his process. My father was a very big man in his prime. And he was also very protective. A few knew how protective he was, first and foremost of his family, but also of women and children. There's only 2 times in my life that I was worried that my dad was going to go to jail. And I didn't know him when he was doing all the stuff with the dolls and the firecrackers and stuff. But so one time we went to a Ranger game, and we were walking out to the car, and we heard, both my dad and I heard, Daddy, wait for me. And I looked to the left, and there was a little boy in leg braces and crutches struggling to catch up to his dad, whose dad took off. And Dad turned around, and the friendly light in his eyes was replaced by a burning predatory rage. And thankfully for the father, my dad and his dad, they turned around and recovered his son. The other time when we went to an elementary graduation ceremony, there was a mother and her child. They're sitting and they were saving their seat for her husband who had yet to arrive. And there was a strange man that just decided to take that seat. My dad stood up, we were a few rows back, my dad stood up and was, I'm gonna take you out, man. And my mom was pulling on his arm, Barry, sit down. But the look, I swear, the look in his eyes was like, man, my dad can beat up your dad. But thankfully, the husband came and resolved it without my father having been involved. In the fall of 2002, I dropped all of my classes at Brigham Young University. I needed to get out of Dodge. I took a turn job in New York City, and my parents obviously were communicating everything. I'm in college. I told them I needed to go. I took a job and I won't see you for about 9 months, 10 months. My mom was very, very, very adamant that my dad come with me. And I was kind of frustrated at the time. I'm a little kid, I felt like my mom was forcing a chaperone onto me. I had lived across the globe for 2 years, serving a mission in the church, and I was doing fine in college, no problem. And then also, Texas isn't really on the way to New York City from Utah. But, that quickly dissipated, and I drove down and picked up my dad. And we started just the road trip. It was him and I in a Jeep. And we had a lot of fun talking, we're singing with the Eagles and Bob Seger, and joking all the way up to Washington, D.C. We got Washington to take pictures next to the major monuments and the temple. And then he insisted that we go to Fairfax to see the houses that him and Mom grew up in. So we went there. And at casual suggestion, we decided to go to the Central Intelligence Agency. We were having a lot of fun, we're talking and everything, and we didn't even read the second sign. And we pulled up to the front, and we were detained by the CIA for 20 minutes while they ran our background and credit checks. We barely got out of there. We talked about that, joked about that for the rest of our lives. His life. He loved being a grandpa. 11 years ago, he took Mom, my wife Leah, my little son Jake, who was 2 years old at the time, up to Carrie's wedding. When they got there, Leah and Jake were able to spend some time with her family, who was also from Utah. And the very next day, Leah drove to the reception, and Jake got out of the car and screamed, "Grandpa!" And Dad turned his head and saw Jake, and he said, "Jake!" And they both started running towards each other. Since the invention of the hug, there have been 5 hugs that were rated the most loving, most pure. This one left them all behind. He reflected on this experience many, many times in the last 11 years. My father was a valiant servant of God. He always tried to go to church, to the temple, honor his priesthood, and magnify his callings. One time he got a call by the bishop a long time ago to be the new seminary teacher. And he told the bishop, and I never thought my dad would be one to do this, but he told the bishop I need to think about it. So normally you just accept it and do a good job, you know. And I was in the room with him and Mom, and he could voice his concerns to my mom and said, "I don't know if I have time to do a good job." And Mom, you know, everybody knows Mom, Barry, you will call the bishop back, and you will accept the call, and you're going to do it. So Dad called Bishop and said, "I'll do it." And of course, he grew to love being a seminary teacher. My father was awesome at showing us the value and meaning of sacrifice. Many times, all day long, we'd go to church and have meetings and come back. His dogs were barking, he'd take his shoes off, and he always had at least 2 holes in each of his socks. And I never had holes in my socks when I was growing up, but it's not that big a deal. But if you're at church for 10 hours, or however long it was, and those old church shoes, you know, where your barefoot's rubbing against it, those are hot spots, and those are not very fun. But he never, ever complained. My father was courageous. The last few years, he struggled to hold down a job. At every layoff, he would get back in the market with headhunters and shrinking benefits. And as this cycle continued, he learned a lot about faith, the love of God, and about himself. As far as I knew, he never kept a regular journal. But this week we went through a lot of the stuff in the house, and we found a journal entry that he put on a legal pad. And I wanted to share some of the things that he said. He wrote, "Why were there 4 jobs in 9 months? I may never know. But I know I've been guided by my Father in heaven all the way through. He has worked miracles both in my heart and in getting these jobs. He may not calm the storm every time, but he calms the heart of the sailor." My wish for anyone who reads this: obey and follow in your Savior's footsteps. He will love you and guide you every step. A couple weeks after his true love of 55 years passed away, he learned he needed bypass surgery. He was scared, but he bravely admitted himself to the hospital to have the surgery. The past couple of months were very difficult in many ways for Dad, but I know he felt the love in each and every visitor of my mom and our Heavenly Father. Barry Trowbridge is a devoted husband, loving father, proud grandpa, beloved son, big and little brother, kind uncle, stalwart missionary. Sorry. Mechanical engineer, family chef, avid mechanic, prepared teacher, lifelong provider, vigilant protector, professional spoiler, the original tickle monster. And a loyal friend. He wasn't a nerd, he was a geek. And my hero. I'm very fortunate too. I had lived my life with my father to the point that he knew everything about how I felt about him. And like everyone has spoken about today, he was very demonstrative. He didn't let you go without knowing how proud he was of you, how much he loved you. I'd like to bear my testimony that I know where he is. I know who he's with. I have 2 fathers in heaven right now. I love my dad. He introduced me to my Savior. That's all there is to it. I say the same thing in Jesus Christ.
Beloved and true Father in heaven, we, thy children, are here to celebrate the life and the love of Barry Trowbridge. The man he is and was, the legacy that he lived and left us all. Legacy of life, of love, of concern, and a true belief in thee. Lord, we pray as we go forward, keep thy incredible light of happiness in our hearts, knowing that if we do what thou wantest us to do, and follow thy commandments, we shall be with him again, and Kathy, and all the beloved people that have gone before us, that have marked the path for us, and follow thy Son, the path he led. Bless us with thy love and thy strength, and especially with thy Holy Comforter, thy Holy Spirit right now. Let us know of thy love, thy infinite love, thy Savior's, our Savior's atoning the sacrifice for us. We are grateful unto thee for all thy many blessings. Grateful unto thee for thy love and the love for one another. These things we say in the name of thy Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.